It is a pleasure to chat with you about the show. It is so exciting. There is so much.
And we shot it in your hometown.
I know. I love that. I kept spotting spots here in Toronto. And I'm like, oh, I know that. I know there.
I know where that is.
There's so much I wish we could talk about. I know we can't. So, what I want to know first is how much do you think she changes from the 30s to present day? Because there's such a different...
it's a different vibe, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what's interesting. To me, that's really what drew me to doing this. First, I love the fact that the show starts in the 30s and then you never really see a character at the beginning and sort of at the end of their lives. She does change so dramatically. And it's kind of what I loved when I was reading. I love the opportunity to see a character at the beginning and sort of at the end of their lives. And I think for Grace or Lady Liberty, she starts, and I love that moxie she has. I love her. She's like a heat-seeking missile for the truth. And I love her take no prisoners sort of attitude. I love how self-assured she is. I like how independent she is. And then at the end, when you see her, when she's married with kids, I think she's lost, even though she's like the strongest woman in the world, she's lost a bit of her fearlessness and her she's trying to keep her marriage afloat. She's trying to keep her family afloat. She's trying to keep the world afloat. I mean, she literally has the weight of the world on her shoulders. And in this pursuit, she's forgotten who she was and everything that really defined her. And I think that's an interesting thing as human beings, as we all get older, how we start to, and as fear sets in, as time ticks by, how we lose that tether to who we used to be. And I'm really fascinated by that. And my mom passed away about a year and a half ago. And I was really thinking about that with her life. Because she was kind of like my Grace. Like she was like, I always used to joke about my mom. I'd say she's like a cat on a hot tin roof. She always lands on her feet. And towards the end of her life, she just sort of was not that. And sort of, I always was like, what happened? Where did that fearless woman sort of go? And I think it's so easy to do and can happen to all of us. But I think like Grace is in this similar sort of transition of like, what happened? Where did almost as if she's almost lost her voice in trying to stay with the code, her own independent, I have my own brain. I don't have to think like the sheep. I don't have to have this sort of way of thinking like the crowd. She lost that, I think. And so I find that really interesting with her.
Well, there's two sides of that from my perspective watching the show. Was one side, I can't imagine being in that position of being a mom to Chloe and Brandon. And the fact that we never see her opinion really about what they've become. Whereas obviously some other characters have very strong opinions about
very strong opinions. Well, but first off, I think she loves her kids. And I think that she also knows, we don't see what type of, when we're back on the island, the person I see is my uncle, the person who hipped me to sort of photography. And so it wasn't that Grace had this, it wasn't her mother or father that is the person she wanted to see. So I always thought Grace probably didn't have the best relationship with her parents. And, and I'm sure a woman in the 20s picking a career over, a life of like a husband and a family is probably didn't make them happy as well. But so I think that she understands what it looks like to have your parents be disappointed in you. and maybe not make the right career choices or the right life choices. Because for sure, Grace was living like a life that I'm sure a lot of adults would be like, oh, that Grace Kennedy, what's going to happen to her? You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I think that she has compassion, because I think Grace has an intense capacity to care for other people. And she's a great listener. So I think she knows that she can't do the tactic that, Sheldon's doing. And at the end of their day, they're her children, and she understands what it's like. They didn't ask for this. It's like when children are, when children, are born to famous parents, those kids didn't ask to have like paparazzi follow them and things like that. You know what I mean? So it's like these kids they didn't ask for this. When we got these powers, we were like, yes, we're in, sign us up. And then these kids didn't have a say in it. So I think she has a great deal of compassion. And I also think she is a lioness, and she would not let anybody mess with her, with Chloe or with Brandon. And I think she's very patient with Chloe, but there's a dinner table scene where she starts to backtalk her dad, and she's like, tread lightly, my friend, tread lightly, And so, I wouldn't mess with Grace.
I love too that we get to see how much of a lioness she is in episode 6 and 8. Those 6 especially, maybe, but wow, those were great scenes.
Yeah, thank you. Did you like 6? I really think it's a great episode.
It's amazing. That's one of my favorites out of all 8.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Tell Mark Miller that.
I love this.
We had a really great director. I think 5, 6, 7, and 8 are kind of my favorite. I mean, partly because it was when we were all, like, the boys and I were all together and we were on the boat. And I'm probably going to screw up Charlotte's last name, but Charlotte, I think it's Brandstrom is her last name. She's this wonderful French director. And then Mark Jobst. So she did 5 and 6, and then Mark Jobst did 7 and 8. And they're just incredible directors. And I think they're so great with actors. And I think they really elevated everyone's performance and really mixed action with keeping the thread of, us honest as actors and the drama of it mixed with, I feel like you have to have both, or otherwise you're just like running around grunting and hitting crap, which is, to me, not really boring. Like, the story is what's really interesting to me. But I thought it was so fun to be on that boat and on the island with the guys. And I felt like, even as a cast, it was the first time we were all together under, in scenes all together. It was really, really fun. And it was an incredible thing, because when we were shooting it, we were always meant to shoot on an island. So we're going to leave Toronto and go. And then it just didn't work out. So we had to film in Toronto, and we're like, how do we make an island seem like Toronto? And it was like the universe said, okay, so you know how it goes, like one day it's like, there's one scene where it's like beautiful and we're in the woods. The next day it's snowing. It literally, that happened. It was.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought that was an effect.
No, that wasn't an effect. That's real snow that literally Mark was like, okay, we got to write this into the scene. So it was all supposed to be hot and like overwhelming. The day before was like sunny when we find the tree with all this stuff. It's like, it was crisp, but it wasn't snowing weather. And that night it was this crazy snowstorm. And then we were knee deep in snow. And then the next day we were shooting in like this place that felt like a desert thing. It was really wild that Toronto gave us all the island feels with, I think, very little like special effects work, because who knew it could be
the city could be like that for sure.
Yeah, it was, but we weren't that far out. Like, we were only like maybe 45 minutes outside of town. So yeah, that's all real. So so to the credit of the show, they just said, we're like, well, we have to use this. And so they did.
So what was it like working with this group? Because the cast is fantastic, and they hooked me
Aw.
from like the first moment.
Well, they're a bunch of jerks. No, they're great. I knew Josh because Josh and I had done a movie together right before. I produced this movie, and he came on and did it with me, and he was so wonderful in that movie. He's so charming and fantastic, and I've always been a fan of his. And so I felt like that was great because we already had this like rapport with each other, but it never worked with Matt or Mike or Ben Daniels, and we just had the best time. They're really great people. I mean, everyone will tease me because Ben Daniels and I are like two. They're like, oh no, Leslie and Ben are here. They're going to rob a bank. Like we're always sort of like getting into trouble and doing things, and so which I think you can sort of get a sense of that with us. Like we can't help it. I find Ben Daniels to be like a delicious candy that you want, like a delicious dessert. Like he's so fun. He's so funny. He's so talented. So yeah, we had such good fun on that island. Like everyone was so wonderful. And, it was like, we're on that boat, we're being shot with water cannons, and it was crazy. And I was like, we're either going to die. It's like someone's going to get hurt or something's going to go like, ass over tea kettle, but nobody did. We all survived, but it really bonded us so much. And yeah, they're really nice people. And I'm not just saying that, we had a really good time and a lot of laughing. We were in it together with all six of us. I call it getting the kooks, when like something's happening and you're on your 14th hour and like your eyes just start going this way and like tears of laughter start coming down. But they're wonderful, and they're talented, and they're kind, and they're great guys.
Well, the last thing I'll ask you before I have to go is, what's the costume like? Because it looks amazing, but I'm sure maybe it's a bit uncomfortable.
It is, but you know what? I think, I am partial, but I do think that I have the best costume. I love
the cape is amazing.
The cape is amazing. It's like 3 layers of stuff. Liz Wolfe, who's our costume designer, like she created a language. So if you look on the white, there's like all this incredible detailed thread work, which is this language that she created that's on all of our costumes. I don't think I'll ever look that amazing ever again. I sort of look at it like I love it. It's uncomfortable, but it really sucks you in. It gets a little sweaty, but you take it off and you've maybe lost a few pounds, and it's pretty badass.
It is.
I don't
really
know.
Badass.
It's really badass. And so I know, like, for me, I'm so used to like, listen, any girl will tell you high heels aren't comfortable, but we do it because they look good. And so I like wearing that costume because as soon as I put it on, I feel like her. I feel like I could save the world. I feel like I have like this suddenly like this sense of like, if something's wrong, I could save the day. So I love that costume. It's really fun. I wouldn't want to sleep in it all night, but I'll wear it and run around with it very gladly. I love it.
Well, thank you so much. It was really a pleasure. I hope to be talking to you for season 2.
Hope so. We'll see. Fingers
crossed.
So
good.
Okay. Thanks, Andrew. I appreciate it.